My name is Xin-Yen Ling. I'm an immigration defense attorney. In 2010, at the time of the passage of SB 1070 in Arizona, I was a lawyer at a nonprofit in San Francisco called the Asian Law Caucus. When SB 1070 was ushered into law in Arizona, a number of nonprofit organizations and civil rights groups filed a lawsuit in Arizona, including the American Civil Liberties Union, National Immigration Law Center, Mexican American Legal Defense and Education Fund, and all the Asian American civil rights organizations filed a lawsuit to challenge the constitutionality of the Arizona law that essentially required Latinos and Asian immigrants to show paperwork. And it allowed the local government, specifically law enforcement, to ignore the law that requires the police to have something called reasonable suspicion to stop individuals. At that time, SB 1070 was being sold or marketed as this public safety law, but in reality it was a racist and xenophobic law that specifically intended to identify mostly Latino immigrants, to stop them, to find them, and subsequently to deport them. A number of organizations filed a lawsuit that was intended to stop the lawsuit and stop the law from going into effect until litigation went through the system. Several years later, other states followed in passing their version of a Show Me Your Papers law, which included Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, and Indiana. And those states also passed a law that essentially intended to identify and deport immigrants who are here without legal status. 2010 was a year in which states tried to create their own immigration enforcement laws, but the reality is only the federal government has the authority and jurisdiction to deport and detain people, not local law enforcement. Fast forward 7 years later, most of those states who passed their versions of SB 1070, including Arizona, has essentially lost their part of the lawsuit. The Supreme Court in 2016 essentially struck down most of those provisions as unconstitutional, except for one particular piece that allows law enforcement, if they are able to establish reasonable suspicion when stopping a person, may ask an individual's immigration status. But beyond that, even the Supreme Court justices questioned how permissible or how far it can go.